Well, welcome to the March 30th meeting of the Planning Commission. I'll call for a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Crosby,
Here.
Commissioner Wagner,
Here.
Commissioner Zawowski,
Here.
Commissioner O'Leary.
Present.
And it looks like Commissioner Lee, she had planned on attending, but she is not here yet. And then Chair Malone.
Here. And then the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Does anybody have a motion for that or changes to it or any input on that before we approve them?
Nothing here.
Okay,
You can just declare them.
I can just
You
declare
can just
them. We don't have to
declare
do a motion on it.
No.
I'll declare the approval of the minutes as complete. And are there there's no citizens on the floor, but do you want to speak as a citizen, Miss Councilperson?
No, thank you.
Okay, then I will call for the director's report.
Thank you, Chair. So a couple things on this tonight. So as you can see at the top for the next meeting scheduled, we don't have anything tentatively scheduled at this time for any of the upcoming meetings. We do have some long range planning objectives that we'll be bringing before the commission over the next several months, but we don't know when yet. And then as you'll see at the bottom of the page, the tentative upcoming code amendment schedule, I'll be including these on this going forward because the council created a bin list of items to kind of tackle over the next year or two. And so I'm just getting direction from the city manager on kind of what he wants to see next. So as you can see, the April 20th meeting has 2 items planned. The May 4th has 1. And then the pending, one of which you're talking about tonight, and the other one which you've talked about at past work sessions. Those will both be going to the city council probably in June, July, or August. So we have a pretty full slate of code amendments that will be going to the city council over the next 4 or 5 months. That's not to say we can't tackle some at the planning commission, but as I was telling the chair earlier is when we have more on the council agenda, especially things that would also be tackled by the commission, it just limits our availability to tackle them here as well.
You're tied up with
Correct.
higher
So one thing I kind of want to highlight as part of this though is we did get our HPS approval from the state of Oregon. Was that last week or the week before? I think I sent the commission an email
Is that
about
the
it.
one with just the 2 addendums?
Correct, just the
Yeah.
2 conditions. And I'm going to be meeting with DLCD in the next couple of weeks to figure out exactly how they want us to satisfy those 2 conditions so that we make sure that we so that will be something, just so you all know, is now that that's been approved, we now are kind of on the clock, so to speak. So we got 4 years to complete a bunch of them. And then at my 4-year check-in with the state of Oregon, they're going to want to see that we're accomplishing as many as possible. So I think we set 12 strategies. My guess is they're probably going to want to see at least 6 or 7 of them accomplished by the 4-year check-in. So
Some of them are easier than others to
Yes.
accomplish. So
some of them are very easy, and actually some won't even take a lot of involvement from the
it's just
commission.
basically noted.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then a few of them are going to take kind of the in-depth code analysis or kind of maybe even hiring a consultant for a couple of them. So I just wanted to let you know that's something that's not really on the bin list, but that's something that we'll all need to be aware of that we'll be working through over the next few years.
Probably good to tackle 2 or 3 of the hard ones. And then if it comes down to the wire, we can throw in 2 or 3 or 4 of the easy ones.
Yeah, and council, that wouldn't be a bad approach. Council would also set like a timeline for when they wanted the different ones complete. So in talking to the state, you can kind of move that around a little bit if needed. Like it's not have to hit those deadlines. But I think that's kind of, and I can resend that to this team, but that's kind of our schedule of tasks that the state's going to be expecting over the next 8 years. Just so you're aware. And then I was asked a question around the moratorium. So I provided a short blurb here about the moratorium and the wastewater system update as well. So I think if you attend the May 4th meeting, which I believe I don't think it's going to be a joint meeting, but I think the city managers encourage planning commissioners to attend that meeting. That's going to be where the new draft wastewater facility plan amendment is actually presented to the city council. So that will be the real main meeting to get information on next steps on our wastewater solutions. And then I think potentially later this week or next week, we'll be releasing Moratorium 5.0, which has the distribution program actually outlined in it. So when we do send that to the state of Oregon, hopefully in the next week or so, what I will do is send it to the commission as well.
Is
So
that distribution of the EDUs?
yes,
The
of the
190.
190, yep.
Yeah.
So that will outline all that. We buttoned it up with the city attorney a couple weeks ago, but we're waiting for the city council to kind of look at it one more time and make sure there's no other big questions before we release it publicly.
Okay,
Um,
because you know, as soon as you release it publicly, there will be a lot of questions.
There'll be a lot of questions, and I think it'll be, it's just gonna be in draft form when I do send it to the state of Oregon, so the city council can always change it, of course. But I do think it just makes it a little bit harder to change it, because then if people either like or dislike things that were in it, then there's gonna be questions around why we're changing them after we release it. So we're trying to button it up as close as possible.
Yeah, but
But if something comes up between whenever we release it and the adoption hearing, the city council has every right to make that change.
And the adoption will be once we have the 190.
No, so how it'll work is the adoption will be adoption of the moratorium. And in that adoption, so that'll be in like late May, early June, before it expires. The current one expires. I think the current one expires on June 2nd, so it has to be by then. So it will create a new moratorium with new guidelines, and the guidelines will include the distribution program for the 190. And then there's a bunch of analysis that I put together on why we selected the numbers we did for like commercial, industrial, residential, that sort of thing. If I had it tonight, like if we had released it to the public last week, I would have shared it with you and we could have talked about it tonight. That is something that actually, and speaking of upcoming meetings, that is something that we could meet to discuss. I think it would probably take at least an hour to probably go through it and answer questions from the commission.
will it be released to the city council also? So we can.
They've
just
already
go to-
seen it. They've already
seen it.
Yeah, and because it's pending litigation, we can do it through like confidential means with our
Okay.
attorney's office.
Okay,
But the council has seen it already. I think a few different iterations of it.
kind
Oh,
of like
and
the
to
sewer
answer-
treatment plant,
What's that?
a few different iterations of it.
Yeah, and to answer your question, so I almost forgot to answer the main question you asked. How it'll work is that, say it's adopted in late May or early June. The distribution program, it's written in the resolution that it only becomes effective once we get the release from the EPA and DEQ. So instead of getting the release, let's just say we get it in October. Instead of getting the release and then going through the process to, notice the state and
It'll
adopt
already be
it,
in
this will
place.
already be in place. Yeah.
Cool.
That leads to my second question, which is what do we anticipate, or how quickly do we anticipate people coming in for those 190 ERUs?
So the resolution will outline the process for like the timelines for they have to be able to get their applications in.
I mean, do we have people like knocking down the door for it, or are we kind of like, oh, we think we'll pick it up once it's released?
I think there's a lot of interest in getting ERUs. I think residentially speaking, I think it will be very competitive. And so that part, how we have it set up, will be a lottery system. The commercial industrial is a little bit of an unknown. Like I hope that people come in
Right.
The
in
cost,
droves.
the cost right now of construction and everything, at least until the end of, the excursion, is probably gonna be prohibitive for some builders.
The cost of getting money lended is pretty expensive too.
right
So
now.
I
Yeah, all of that.
don't know how many people will actually pull the trigger or not. I just really don't know.
Sure.
Well, we will find out.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine of how many people, because we have a lot of interest, but how many people will actually take the next step and start applying and spending money to get the allocation and
Right.
then doing pre-apps and submitting land use, because you know that that'll cost money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the unknown around this, is how many people will actually go down that whole road.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and if they're sure it's not gonna go away, they're gonna be able to hold on to those ERUs. They'll probably wait till it's the best
So the,
time for them.
so one thing I can tell you is there will be some pretty strict deadlines of, say you get your ERU, this is just an example, say you get an ERU allocated to you, you'll have like 6 months to apply for a pre-app. And then within 6 months of us holding the pre-app meeting, you'll have to apply for the land use. So there will be some deadlines so that somebody doesn't
Hold everybody
hold
else
up
up.
all the ERUs. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Use
So
it.
I-
It's a somewhat use it or lose it
It definitely is. Yeah.
situation. Okay.
So I mean, if everybody wants to meet, to talk about that, even if we have no other agenda items at an upcoming meeting, I'd be more than happy to come and speak to that. So if that's something the commission's interested in, we could definitely hold just a work session to talk about either the draft, or we could wait until after the council adopts it and then talk about it. It's entirely up to all of you.
Chair, if
I'm open to anything, so. you
I
guys-
think I would also love, I mean, I think if experience says with council meetings and attending, especially not being a joint work session, we'll hear information about the draft wastewater facility plan amendment. But there won't be a lot of maybe opportunity for us to ask questions in that meeting. And so
Correct.
maybe if appropriate, we could pair the two meetings up since they're around the same time period. So that way we could maybe get information to ask questions on kind of that wastewater facility plan.
But with our meeting about the ERUs,
There just happened to be about the same time, about somewhere in May.
but
So I
they've
was-
already had they've already been given that information at city council level, so they wouldn't be included in that. Would it be just around the same time?
Right, so I'm saying the same
Meetings.
time we're getting that he
Hmm,
lets.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So we could potentially have a meeting in May after May 4th.
Right,
So the document that we're gonna hopefully release this week will be public, and you'll have had at least a month to review that.
yeah,
Okay,
And then you'll have also had a chance to listen to the facility plan updates on May 4th. What I could do is see if the public works director is available and invite him to that meeting as well. So if there are questions, you
Right.
guys can
On the-
ask him directly.
so,
Because if they're technical, I'm not gonna be able to answer.
right.
okay,
So we could look for a meeting in like mid to late May, if that works for this group. I just can't meet on, the typical meeting date would be May 26th, would be the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I can't meet that night because it's my oldest son's spring concert at his school. He plays trombone. So I definitely cannot meet that night, but I would be available to meet later that week or one of the weeks before that.
okay. Well,
I'm open.
we'll just keep us up to date. We'll,
Do you want me to send some different options like
That
by
would be
email,
great.
and then everybody can
Mhm.
chime in on
we
what
can have a vote and
people could send them to me and
you
you?
and you can.
Yeah. Yeah, that way we don't run into like a meetings law violation.
Careful. Is that the end of the director's report?
That is, thank you, Chair.
Okay. How about our council liaison? Do you have anything from the council that you want to share with us, or?
I do, just a couple of things briefly and then a question for Kelly. Last Thursday, the mayor and the city manager and I went to a dinner in Estacada to talk about their new
Sewer treatment plant?
we did talk about that with Mayor Drake Wine, but the main focus was a developer has very ambitious plans to develop an acre in the hillside right off.
Oh, okay.
212. And he's put a lot of thought into generating what they want and how it's gonna work, and, I just thought it was interesting that, John Lagarza, I believe he does the economic development as well, because he was there. But the brochures, I think, Especially the one that kind of has the bullet points on city goals and council goals and things like that would be something that would be really good. There's a lot of questions around what we're doing in Sandy and how we're getting to the decisions we are. But if anybody wants to go online and take a look at those development plans, they are huge and ambitious. They're planning on, middle housing, multi-housing, facilities for aged people on one corner. It's 80 acres.
But
And so
are all these things
basically,
dependent on their sewer treatment plant being finished?
that Mayor Drink Wine did allude to the fact that they're in a wastewater thing. He didn't, obviously that wasn't the tone of the meeting and he
Right.
was he's very good at kind of endorsing what we're there to hear. Which is good for a mayor to do. You don't want to dwell on it with those of us who, we like to flush, but we're in trouble. So that wasn't part of the presentation. It was mainly the developer and, his philosophies and what they're hoping to do. But the outline of this project is basically a city within a city with grocery stores and transportation and people. They don't want people to leave Estacada to go have to do their daily payments. So it was really interesting. It's
No more trips to Fred Meyer's and Sandy.
no, no. But if you want to take a look online, they've got a lot of things they have planned. It looks very expensive, very long-term, very involved. It didn't look like any of the land had been, in fact, I asked them the question if they had the NEPA, and the developer said, I didn't know I might need that. So
Sorry.
I don't know if that's something relative to certain areas. He asked me what I knew, and I said, I just know about it because I've sat in with other bodies who have had to have that and it will expire. So I'd hate for you to do all these things and then realize you needed something else.
Yeah,
I would,
you would think they would have paid staff that would tell them that.
everybody seemed surprised that that was mentioned. So, but we all work at our own pace and maybe this is just very developmental on the surface where they are and, I'm just nosy, so whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you take a look online, it's really, really big. It's really, really ambitious. And, it's a lot. So it will take years, decades maybe. But it's worth, mentioning, I think. We're kind of in where we are and then there's like the huge picture, that's where they are. They're in like the panoramic view of bliss and it would be amazing if there's just so many unknowns right now. So yeah, that was interesting. To have, their population, I believe, is just under 6,000, so it's half of what we are. To have all of these things going in and all of these new infrastructure pressures on such a small community. That it'll be a good learning experience, I think, for everybody. The other thing, I wanted to mention is the county, proposed idea of the RV park. I know we submitted questions to the county. Do we have any updates on that, Kelly?
What I can speak to on that is that so that property, at the kind of the west of where DeBarco Road currently terminates into 362nd, that's the property that Councilor Ramsayer is speaking about. If they don't annex it, then I don't remember if it's a permitted use or a conditional use, but there is a pathway to have an RV park on county land under that zoning. So that developer, if he decides to pull the trigger and move forward with an RV park, would have to go through the county zoning regulations. Patrick did attend the pre-app meeting on behalf of the city and submitted like a page or a page and a half of requirements that the city would have. Because we do have 362nd Drive, and a portion of that is city maintained and owned. So that's pretty much all we have at this
Yeah.
point. We don't know anything past what happened at the pre-app meeting. I think the developer, from what I understand, he's the owner of All County Surveyors and Engineers.
Hmm.
Darren is his name. I think he's waiting to see if he can get ERUs through the distribution program.
No,
And then if he
Yeah.
can't, then I think he's gonna determine his other options. So
Yeah,
I think he wanted to see what the county would require for an RV park. And then, so he knows, like, this is my path forward if that's where I have to go. And then if not, if I can get ERUs, then I think he's gonna look at probably developing it through the city, I'm guessing.
That was my question. If they put an RV there and it's in the county, what are they gonna do with the wastewater?
They would have to get an approval from the county to have
There's some,
the septic and drain field, yeah.
a big one, yeah.
Probably a decent sized one, yeah. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but the county would have to approve that. And you know, the county's aware that it's close to Tickle Creek and it's a fish bearing stream, and they're aware that DeBarco Road will eventually go through the property. So actually Darren, the property owner, already signed an agreement with the city that we recorded as part of this process, that once he does annex and redevelop it or develop it, that he'll dedicate and build DeBarco Road.
isn't
So
that also where the Springwater Trail comes into from Gresham? Where is the alignment for that? Is that-
I actually don't know
I thought
that.
it was right near there.
Could be. I do know one thing he did want to do, either whether it's an RV park or developed in the city or something else. He does want to put a trail system along the creek and work with the city and then give us an easement for it. So as like
Kind
a
of
future.
aligned with like Tickle Creek Trail.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Because he told me he sees the benefit of that no matter what he develops it as, to have it as an amenity for people either staying
People
there
love
or
to
living
hike.
there.
People love. to
Yeah.
hike.
So that's like a positive that he is
Mhm.
thinking about that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any discussion by planning commissioners of something that isn't something I'm happy with? Nope. Okay, I had a little question, because in the agenda, Kelly, on our new business, it says file number 26-04, but the ordinance is 26-03.
Yeah,
Is that, there's some which
it's correct. Yeah.
is correct, okay,
Yeah, it's
but it's a legislative hearing, right?
yeah, we actually once had a file number, a land use file number, and the ordinance number be the same, and
And I
that caused
Okay.
chaos.
Yeah, it did. I thought something doesn't seem right here.
No,
So the file number and the ordinance number are close together, but they're totally different.
Correct.
One's a file number, one's an ordinance.
that's exactly right.
Okay. And then they're dealing with stuff that happened in 2024, in 2026. So
Exactly.
yeah, we're right on top of these things.
And the House bill's called 2005, so that,
Right.
yeah, everything.
It's very, for a layperson, it's like all the
Yeah,
anacronyms.
2005, but it was actually adopted in 2025, so yeah.
Yeah. All right, so under file number 26-04, the pre-house bill compliance amendments, and we're gonna do a legislative hearing. So I know I have to announce this, even though there is nobody sitting
You do.
there. But I have to announce it. There'll be 3 minutes for each person who wishes to testify. And I'll open the public hearing. And the file number, as was stated, 26-04. And I will call for any abstentions from the planning commission. Any conflicts of interest? And is everybody ready to hear this or have any ex parte contact? And I'll call for any challenges, and I will move right along to reading the following statements. If you testify, you must raise all issues at this hearing. Your comments should state why the applicant should or should not be recommended. Doesn't really apply on this case. If you do not raise specific issues at the final evidentiary hearing by the close of the record, or fail to provide statements or evidence to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue, you will not be able to appeal the decision to the Land Use Board of Appeals. And staff report.
Thank you, Chair. I know it's always a little awkward when we know there's gonna be nobody likely testifying
Nobody
to
here,
it, but we
nobody-
still have to go through the.
There are people out there who care.
Yes, and it is recorded, so thank you for doing that.
Okay.
So as we were just talking about for a minute there, is that in 2025, the Oregon Legislature adopted House Bill 2005, which I know is a little bit confusing, dealing with a wide range of mental health related issues. Only a very small portion of the bill actually has land use provisions that are being changed. On the first page of the staff report, and I believe I sent a summary a few months ago, I think it was in October or November, I sent it to the City Council and Planning Commission speaking to this more. There's co-location requirements around crisis stabilization centers, around mental and psychiatric hospitals. And so all of those provisions will be being applied through ORS Chapter 197. At a future date, in talking to our attorney's office, they would, I think the legislation, House Bill 2005, actually requires cities to go back through your development code and modify it to meet the legislation. Typically, if you look at legislation, it just says these are the new rules. And basically they apply whether a city changes their development or municipal code or not. This is a very unique one where they actually specifically state that cities shall. So probably sometime later this year or in 2027, we'll likely be coming back before the Planning Commission and the City Council with some additional code modifications. However, we're not proposing those at this time for two reasons. The first reason is that there's pending litigation that looks like it actually might hold up the applicability of this new House bill for a little while. So our attorneys kind of wanted us to pump the brakes
Wait and
and
see.
wait and see what happens with that litigation. The second reason we don't want to propose anything yet is because nobody in the state of Oregon has.
Yeah.
So I asked our attorney's office, is there like language I can go look at? And he said, well, actually, we'll be the first ones writing it. So I said,
That's not
we're
good.
under a moratorium. Yeah, let's just wait.
If we're gonna
So
have to change it, let's change it once.
exactly, 100% agree.
Yeah.
So before you tonight is actually pre-House Bill 2005 code amendments. So when our attorney's office, when I was asking him all these questions, he actually, Josh, who's been our attorney now for I think 3 years or so, he wasn't our attorney when some of this stuff got passed like decades ago. And so he started looking into our code a little bit more and he said, well, unfortunately, what I have to tell you is you don't have to adopt anything around House Bill 2005 right now. But what I would strongly recommend is to make these other code amendments that you probably should have made like a decade or two ago. And so that's what's before you tonight are those amendments that should have been made in the past that either myself or somebody before me missed. Quite frankly, I don't.
Are those
I-
all the ones allowing certain things?
Correct.
In certain zones?
So I don't have a date for you guys on when that changed. I'm going to try to get it from the attorney's office for the city council hearing. Just so if anybody wants to know like how long these have been in place, I couldn't find it on the state legislature's website. So I'll probably need our attorney to chime in. So the main things are in chapter 1710, we are looking to define residential home and to have a different definition for residential facility in line with the ORS. So that's the only two changes in that chapter. And then when you go actually through the different zoning district chapters, so like let's take chapter 1734 for an example, single family residential. One thing that we should have had in our code now for some time is that one of the permitted uses is a residential home. And then you would have to go to the definitions section to see what that exactly means. But it's to sum it up, I think the majority of what we'll see in Sandy, like under residential home, will probably be like adult foster care. So this also came up recently because I believe in 2024-ish, some people bought a new home or an older home on Bluff Road, and they converted the old garage space into more bedrooms for an adult foster care home. I had actually told them mistakenly, oh, that's not a permitted use, sorry, I'll have to find another location. They actually cited some RS that said, no, it has to be allowed anywhere a single family home's allowed. so we worked with them to permit it and it's now in. If you drive on Bluff Road, it says like, they have like a little sign saying now taking, people into the home. So this is just actually codifying that so that the same mistake won't be made by Patrick or I or anybody that comes after us, that we tell people the wrong information again. Which does happen from time to time, especially if we're not aware of like an ORS out there that hasn't been properly incorporated into the development code. So just to go through these kind of quickly, chapter 1736, low density residential. That's the same thing. We just have to add residential home to the permitted uses section. 1738, medium density residential or R2. In that zone, our attorney's office said we have to add residential home and residential facility. So residential facility allows for a slightly larger treatment facility.
Maybe
than a home.
Avamere.
Yeah, along those lines. And then we had to remove it as a conditional use in that zone and just make it a permitted use. If you go to high density residential, R3, we actually already had residential facility in as a permitted use, so we didn't have to modify it like we did in R2, but we did also have to add residential home in this section because it didn't explicitly state that.
So where Avamere is that R3?
That's a good question. Probably. Yeah, my guess is probably. The other odd thing that our attorney pointed out is in the R3, we had residential facility as a permitted use, but then we had residential care facility as a conditional use. And he said by state definition, those are the same use. So it's good to make that clarity.
Yeah.
And then going to the commercial zones in the C2, we had to add residential facility above a commercial business to be consistent with the multifamily dwellings above a commercial business. I'm almost done here. C3, 1746, village commercial, same exact thing as C2. We just had to explicitly say it's allowed above a commercial business. I believe that's all the amendments, actually. So there's not many. It's very few
And they're all
things.
pretty, just
Yeah.
consistently fixing it.
So I guess in conclusion, these would make us compliant with laws that predated HB 2005.
And once that litigation gets done, then we'll decide what we're gonna do.
That's exactly correct.
Okay,
So that's all this legislative hearing is tonight. You also have a copy of the draft ordinance, just in case you have any comments on that. I'm trying to do that more going into the future. We didn't historically do that at commission, but I'd like to get your input on documents we're preparing. And then we also included the findings. So if you have any comments on those, you can give them to us as well.
well, because we're in a hearing, I'm calling for testimonies. Anyone want to speak? Anybody online? No, I'll call for the staff recap and recommendation.
There's nobody online, so.
Right. There wasn't before, unless they jumped in.
Yeah. The staff recap would be staff recommends that the planning commission hold a hearing, which we're doing, discuss the proposed code modifications and provide staff with any suggested edits. Just to let you know, all these edits were actually made by the city attorney. So I wrote up the staff report and kind of got everything over to the state of Oregon and everything and kind of did the more process oriented things. Patrick put together, I think, the ordinance and the findings. So
That's what
we all played a piece, but our attorneys
That's
actually
what we
wrote all
paid
this.
them for.
Yeah, exactly.
We have someone to blame.
So I would recommend forwarding your recommendation with any edits to the council.
Okay. Call for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing.
I second.
Been moved in second that we close the public hearing and discussion by the planning commission. Oh, do we want to, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Now we'll call for discussion of the planning commission on the item.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Forgive me, but I did not look up the definitions for the different ORSs listed in the definition. While adult foster care may be the most common, what are the other types of facilities or treatment or training facilities that could possibly kind of fall into this? Does this include psychiatric treatment and
That's a good question.
or drug related type things as well.
I'm looking it up right now.
Probably those would only be allowed in the R3. I'm assuming, but maybe not. That's what, when you make.
Yeah, and the new, just so you know, the new House bill that was just passed, that's like pretty sweeping on where they can put mental health facilities. And I think that's probably why there's litigation around it, is my guess.
Gotcha.
Just looking at if it has any other information here. There's a bunch of definitions. Where's the actual? So it says community-based structured housing, which is residential care facility, which is an adult foster care or adult daycare, and publicly supported housing as defined by this other ORS, but it doesn't even say what that means.
According to Oregon.public.law, ORS 443.400 includes behavioral health needs, meaning mental, emotional, or behavioral disturbances, conversion facilities, direct care staff for things like administering medication, coordinating focused activities.
So a residential care facility, according to ORS, that same ORS, is a facility that provides residential care in one or more buildings on contiguous properties for 6 or more socially dependent individuals or individuals living with physical disabilities, or for fewer than 6 socially dependent individuals or individuals with physical disabilities if the purpose of the facilities is to serve individuals with co-occurring behavioral health needs. I don't know. Yeah, it does say residential treatment home means a facility that provides for 5 or fewer individuals with mental, emotional, or behavioral disturbances or alcohol or drug dependence. I mean, there's like, if you get into here, there's 14 different things.
Yeah, see them.
And I think, so how we would deal with any of these is they would have to show us, as part of defining if it meets the ORS, they would have to show us in the ORS where it says that can be permitted.
So it's probably
And then we
premature.
take-
Have we had any inquiries or have we done any assessment of the land that might be used for this kind of thing in town? And then also, do we have any pre-existing ones that have been built prior to?
The only ones I'm aware of are the new one that just
On
went in on Bluff Road.
Yeah,
And then there's an older one in the C1 zone, actually, on Hood Street between
Okay.
Bluff and Beers.
okay.
There is like an adult foster care
Right.
facility there. I think it's the same thing as the one on Bluff. I don't think it's for like drug and alcohol rehab. I'm not personally aware of any other ones in Sandy that I can think of, and I'm not aware of any that serve like drug and alcohol rehab.
And we don't have anybody who's looking to get some ERUs to do that. I mean, they haven't approached you and said, I want to build this with my ERUs.
No, in the one that was on Bluff, our public works director determined based on the existing use of a single family home and the proposed use that the ERU equivalency would be equal to each other. But yes, if it was a larger facility, then that may not be the case. And even if it's permitted, they might have to get an ERU.
Okay.
That's correct. So sorry, I don't have a full explanation of that. I'm sure if our attorney was here, they would have a better grasp.
Sure.
Josh's on vacation right now.
But regardless of whether we were okay with it or not, it's now allowed. And there's,
The legislature took
Right.
that out of our hands.
yes.
Yeah, regardless if the city adopts these code modifications or not,
Right.
the RS still applies.
Exactly.
And so it doesn't actually matter. It just might lead to more confusion, like what happened when I told that person it wasn't a permitted use.
Yeah.
I do think there could be potential issues if we didn't adopt it around the state saying it's required to be in the code, but like, I don't know what the penalty would be or anything.
I think our attorney probably gave us good advice to put the things in there that
Yes.
should have been in there decades ago.
Yeah.
And just so everybody's aware, I don't think anybody didn't put this in here on purpose. I don't think there was any like, I think it was just missed.
Well,
We
there
get
was-
all this,
no one was coming forward and asking for
Exactly.
it.
and we
So-
get all this legislation every year. And I would almost guarantee you from time to time, we're gonna miss things. It's just almost impossible not to. And we currently don't pay our attorney's office to go through our code every time there's new legislation and try to find, like, we don't pay for that. I know bigger cities do, but we don't currently.
Why borrow trouble?
Yeah.
So you need it.
So currently what I do is I go through the legislation that occurs and try to figure out if we need anything adopted. And then I run that by our attorney's office, like a summary. And then once in a while, like a couple years ago, I remember they added like, oh, check out this House bill because I think actually you do need to look at this one.
Okay.
So they do a very good job of helping us, but we don't pay them to like reanalyze our code every year that new legislation is adopted.
That's prudent.
Yeah, it'd be expensive to do that.
Jerry, do you have anything?
No, I just, on the original first page of the report, if I'm reading it correctly, in the middle there, for a crisis stabilization center, and I think this is more for the new legislation than what we're looking at now. It has to be located next to a mental or psychiatric hospital.
Can't be a
And
standalone.
And a psychiatric hospital has to be located next to a crisis stabilization center. It's like,
Right.
Chicken or the egg?
yeah, it's like,
And the thing is, right now, as you all know, we don't have any of those.
right, so,
But it could be proposed in the future. We don't
but could
know.
you just propose one?
I don't
It
know.
has to be the one that comes first.
Yeah, but both of them say they have to be next to the other one. It was just funny as I read it, so if I come through and I want to put a psychiatric hospital, well, it has to be adjacent to an existing or pending crisis stabilization center. But there isn't one. So does that mean I can't build it until you put two of them next to each other?
True. That's how I would interpret it.
That's just
Yeah, you have
strange.
to have
I'm
them
just
both.
making sure that's what I understood.
Yeah,
It's kind of a funny way of,
yeah, existing or pending. I think you could probably get an attorney to argue what pending means.
At least it is.
maybe someday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we bought the land for that in the future, so. it's
Now,
kind
what
of-
happens if they said it has to be next to a cannabis distribution place?
Yeah, I
We
mean,
don't
yeah.
have those by law here in Sandy.
In Sandy, yeah.
I don't have anything else. I think it's,
Yeah, sorry, if the attorney was here, you could probably
Yeah.
answer a few of these questions that I'm not
Mhm.
as equipped to
they're
answer.
not critical.
If and when they ever come up, once we've adopted it, then
Yeah.
when the application comes in. Brandon, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, does
to
that mean more ERUs if you got one across the street from the other? I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing. So
Yeah, potentially,
to get
yeah.
in early is probably the right answer, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And all of this probably won't hit us until we solve the sewer treatment plant, so. All
I mean,
right,
likely not, yeah.
yeah, I will call for, at this time, I'll call for a motion.
I will do the motion. I'm just trying to figure out what to say that we're just passing it on to city council,
We're just
correct?
Yeah.
approving the
The,
file number 26-04.
yeah, okay. 26
The
dash.
pre-House bill compliance amendment.
Yeah, my motion would be that we pass it on as it's been presented by staff.
Okay,
I'll second that.
been moved by Jerry, seconded by Council Whitman, that we, pass this on to the city council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, civil infractions work session.
Yeah, so this one's, I think, a little more fun.
We have some high fines.
Yeah. I think this one's a little more fun than the previous one.
Fun's not necessary. Fast is good.
So this is just a work session, so no reason to open up a hearing or anything, which is
Okay.
nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that.
so this kind of piggybacks off of a work session we held with the city council in October of 2024. So at that time, we actually this is before we had the bin list that's now been introduced. We outlined several chapters within the code that needed to be modified. And this was actually done by a code enforcement task force that our previous mayor put together. And so that task force identified different code modifications that needed to occur. I think all of which we have completed. Bless you. Except the sign code amendments, which are going before the council on April 20th for a hearing. And this, which is before you tonight. So in December of 2024, the council adopted ordinance 2024-23. It's included in your packet as Exhibit C. And what that did is it removed chapter 116 and modified chapter 118 pretty significantly. It was the first time they had been updated in decades. And we made an order of different infraction amounts. So you can either have like a class A, B, or C, which previously our code just said $500. So it gives the council some ability to have different fine amounts depending on what you're being fined for. And then it also has a fine escalation clause for repeat offenders, which the council wanted to adopt. And so while the planning commission was not part of that process, because when Mayor Pulliam put together the code enforcement task force, it was directed to work with those city councilors. And I believe, were you on that task force? Yeah, I thought you were, and the chair of the commission to give input to staff. So at that time, it wasn't advised that we bring that before the commission. But since then, I've been trying to do my best to get more input from the commission. For example, in the sign code, that's something that won't be heard by the commission for a public hearing. But we did bring it before you at a work session to get your input, and it was great input. We made several modifications that our attorney and I did not catch. I think Commissioner Crosby did an excellent job of like reading it line by line and finding like some little errors in there, which was fantastic, let me say. But this time around with looking through the entire code and deciding on what fine amounts we want and what language needs to be changed, I do want the commission's input on this. I think it's a good exercise to get more people involved than less. So a few things to note. The infraction table in Exhibit A is the main thing we're going to be looking at as a group, and I'll pull that up. I'll try to pull that up on my screen here in a few minutes. So a few things to note. We have removed references that each day constitute a separate violation. And the reason why we removed that is because the revised chapter 118 now says that. So it just kind of took some unnecessary language out of all these different sections. We have mirrored the infraction classification to the dollar amount in the existing code when possible. So a good example of this would be if the existing code says it's a $100 fine, and it actually says $100 in the code. What we then did for you tonight is the proposed amount from staff is set at the lowest amount. So it'd be a class C infraction, which would be $250. And then so a different example of that would be if the code said the fine amount is $400, which I think it did in one spot, then we set that to the closest fine amount, which would be a class B civil infraction at $500. So that's what we try to do, is our best to just keep them what the code basically says, or as close as
And if
possible.
those are maximum fines, so it leaves the discretion up to the court if they want to make them lower?
Correct.
Okay.
That is exactly correct. The
Okay.
judge can reduce them. I'm just going through my bullet list here. So our city attorney is also recommending, and staff agrees with this, recommending removal of chapter 120 in its entirety. So if you look at the spreadsheet before you, the first line item is 121.10 trial by jury. So we're not proposing changing the fine amount in that section because we're just proposing deleting it in its entirety. We don't do trial by jury in the city of Sandy, and I think our city attorney said he doesn't believe any city smaller than 50,000 people do that in the state of Oregon that he's aware of. So kind of funny it was in our code ever to begin with.
25 years ago or so, I did a trial by judge.
Oh, really?
I disputed
Oh, here at our municipal
I
court, yeah.
disputed something here. This is before I became involved in planning commission.
Yeah, so you can still do that, and we're not removing anything from the code that would
Allow you
enable
to dispute
people to do
something
that,
locally.
correct?
Okay.
But we're
I wanna take
removing,
away that option
we're removing all the stuff that talks about going before a judge.
before a jury.
All right, thank you, before a jury. The other one right after that is we're also removing imprisonment as a fine on all these different things. The only way legally to do that is we would have to set up chapter 120, so we'd have to have juries, and then they could actually put people in
And all we
prison.
have are holding cells anyway, so
Right. You'd have to go sit
we
with
could
all the.
reopen the little hole under the stairs
Yeah.
there.
The other thing too is the city attorney and I, there's a few of these that would be pretty absurd to put people in jail over, like not paying your business license fee or not following the sign code. Like, I don't think any reasonable jury would probably sentence people to more than maybe, 8 hours in prison for that or something.
If.
We're also recommending removal of references to ORS chapters 834 and 835. These are, I believe, referenced in the graffiti. Wait a second. No, I'm sorry. Where are these ones referenced? Oh, yes, correct. So these are something really odd in our code, actually. That in the graffiti section and then also in the camping prohibited in certain places section, when those different chapters were written, we actually cited RRS provisions and the actual classifications. Our attorney wants us to get away from that. And the reason why is because not only do you have to go to that RRS to find the amounts, but the other problem is the state has changed these several times since they were adopted.
So we'd be out of compliance probably. with
We,
what
we,
have.
we're actually out of compliance with it right
Right
now. The RS number is different and the classification's different and the amounts are different. So our code's way out of compliance.
Just delete it.
And he said the only thing we have to do is for anything like graffiti or camping prohibited in certain places, we can set our own fine amounts in our own classes. They just cannot be higher than what the state sets. And what we're proposing before you are all set lower, just to make sure that we're compliant with that state law. And then, here's the one I thought I was just going to speak to is we're recommending removal of section 83480E. This is the only spot in the entire Sandy Municipal Code that we could find that establishes a floor fine. So this is actually what Chair Malone was just speaking to. Everywhere in the code, if you go to our municipal judge has the power to get rid of the
First
fine
offense,
altogether,
waive, whatever, yeah.
decrease it to whatever amount she wants. So she has that judicial ability
Community
to do.
service, whatever.
This
yeah.
is the only section in the graffiti code that there was a floor. So I think it used to say, upon conviction of unlawfully applying graffiti, the court shall impose a minimum fine of $100. And so she actually could not reduce it to 0 or 50 or whatever she wanted to.
You have to make it 100 no matter what.
Correct. And so even if, not to get into a long debate about it, but basically our attorney said it's a really problematic thing because
Let the
it,
punishment fit the crime.
and it
let
takes the power
judge-
away from the judge as well.
that makes
So we're
sense.
recommending deleting it.
I don't imagine it was used all that often.
I don't even think anybody
Ever.
knew it was in the code,
Yeah.
to be honest. And then if you want to look at Exhibit B, our code enforcement officer put that together for if anybody wants to look at what other cities charge. The one thing to note on this, he only went through the sections and chapters that he
Deals with.
Yeah. So some of the sections like some of the stuff that the police deal with in chapter or in Title 9, in Title 10. Those will not be on that matrix that he put together because he doesn't actually enforce those. Those are done by the police department. So that kind of gives you an outline of kind of the basis of where we're going here. I don't know if you wanted to kind of go through the spreadsheet and look at any of these, and kind of give input on if you think the fine amount should be different. I don't know how you want to kind of go through this and give your input. I could certainly try to pull the spreadsheet up. Let's see here if I can do that.
Does anyone feel the necessity for that? No. I trust you to have,
So a few options. We could do that. It'll be kind of an arduous process, but we could do that. The other option is we could just kind of go through these and you guys could take a look at them and give us input on any that you think are a mistake or you think we should kind of look at further, or are there any of these that you think the fine amounts seem excessive for what you're violating or that don't seem like enough? I think that's,
when I look through them, they all seem fine to me as long as the judge has the discretion to reduce them. For like first offense or for exigent circumstances or whatever. And since you said that caveat is there that the judge can reduce them, I trust you to have done your due diligence and we've got the right amounts. There was somewhere I thought we were higher than cities that might,
could very well be.
but as long as, like I say, we might be high, maybe that's a deterrent if we have that in there.
The other thing that I can't speak to these other cities, I really can't. But one thing I can say about Sandy is, and Patrick knows this as good as anyone because he sits next to Chris in the same office. We give people every chance to come into compliance before we issue violations.
It has to be real egregious.
It'd have to be
before we
very-
Start.
If it was something very
Point a hammer
egregious, he would probably go out there and tell him this needs to be resolved like immediately. And if you don't, we're gonna fine you like later today. But 99% of his cases, I would say, he sends them notice after notice. He gives them phone calls or emails if we have that available. And so the fines only really come if we have no other option. Like we have to have the stick.
Yeah,
at
we
a certain
tried
point.
as much as we could.
Exactly. So a good example of that would be the business licenses. You know, we have like 800 business licenses, I think, or something like that. And everybody renewed except like 15 businesses. And then what Chris did after sending 3 or 4 letters is then he individually called everybody and emailed everybody, actually went to some of the sites and actually visited with them. Like that's how far he went. And he got that number all the way down to 3. And then the final 3, he even talked to all of them. And they're just like, well, we haven't paid it yet. So they all got fined, the final 3.
I mean, it's not like the business license is that onerous.
No, it's $85.
Yeah, you know,
And you know, the funny or the odd thing is in this year, at least, all 3 of the people that didn't renew and got the fines were like big national corporations. So
you fell through the crack,
Yeah,
or we
it's
fell
not
through
I
the
didn't
crack.
feel badly.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like the $250 fine was going to hurt a Fortune 500 company in one instance. No.
The one that I had kind of a question that, or maybe that seemed a little high, and I think maybe this is more going back to the process, was snow and ice removal.
Can you remind me what section that's in?
816.
816 and 81630 specifically.
I'm not sure that's something we're ever gonna have to deal with again.
81630. Oh, okay, because it's under 828. Yeah.
I mean, I guess as far as removing it from a business, I can kind of see it. It seems a little steep for Linda, who didn't get out there right away to pay $1,000 to, because she forgot, wasn't able to, get her
Get my,
sidewalk shoveled, but
I mean, the ant form can only do so much.
right.
Yeah.
And especially for how often we get snow, not very often, and how quickly it often goes away. it seems like we care an awful lot about it getting cleared with $1,000 fine.
Now, Jerry, you understand, 40 years ago, when I moved to Sandy, we had snow on the ground from Halloween through April. And my friends who talked us into moving here kept saying, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. Well, it's definitely not normal now. I mean, did we even get any snow this year that
Never-
lasted longer than
Never
25
pulled my
minutes?
shovel
Yeah.
out.
So, I'm not saying that this is never gonna happen again, but,
Yeah, so everything in chapters 804 through 824 are
dealing with that.
violations in accordance with the nuisance penalties outlined in 828. And they're all currently listed as a class A infraction. So that's why we carried it over as $1,000.
Yeah,
But if you want to suggest a different amount for all those chapters, we can certainly take that and let the city council know that you're suggesting a different amount.
Do they have to be the same?
If you didn't want to make them the same, you'd have to go into each chapter or each section within those chapters and create different penalty
just got
amounts.
that in here.
I see what you're saying. It seems kind of steep. But at the same time, that hearing Kelly's story about our enforcement person and how the city deals with them, the likelihood of getting to that point is almost next to nothing, because like you say, a day later, the person's, what's snow?
It's melted, yeah.
Come show me where that snow is.
Yeah, and, I mean, we could try and pick away at some of these, but
Like I say.
I was
leave it
surprised at
as
the
is.
range over the cities. I would not want to live in Enterprise,
No,
but
Was that one really high?
3,000.
Okay.
But just off the snow and ice, I just randomly picked that abandoned
Oh, no.
icebox one. And they range from 100 to 3,000. So how do you even
don't
figure
you
out?
assume that their cities are somewhat the same as ours in that they have a judge and they have the discretion to lower it and they just wanted to have as high a maximum as they could for,
Does Enterprise get a lot of snow?
The icebox one actually made sense to me because
because
if
it's a
you,
nuisance.
well, it's a
Their
safety. It's
Safety.
safety, it's
Kids
child
could get
safety.
in
Yeah.
there and,
No, I understand it. It's just that the range on that one seems incredible.
Yeah,
Is that out by Joseph? Is that where Enterprise is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, where they
I
get a
think
lot
they-
of snow.
It's like right by the big mountains there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, theirs are higher, aren't they?
How large is
It's not even that high.
my Alexa's here, I can ask her.
Yeah, they are
I
almost
know
all
it's smaller than Joseph.
3,000, except a few of them they have at 500. Yeah, like I said, I
just
mean, you
over
could,
2,000.
on any of these that you would like to, if the
Yeah.
commission all agrees, then you could forward a
Don't
recommendation
for
to
every
reduce it.
person that lives there.
Yeah, if the council wants to end up splitting out 804 through 824, we can certainly do it. It's just gonna be a lot more work because we'll have to go into each chapter and write violation sections for them.
Why? Why borrow?
Probably unnecessary, but I mean, if at the end of the day, if they really want to do it, it can definitely be done.
What do you think? Council go on and do that?
I think council has other priorities that will take precedence over that.
Breaking out
Gary pointed
fines.
out that it would ever get to that, it would be
Yeah.
gone and done, unless
Yeah.
we go into another ice age or something.
Yeah.
And then if we can get here, we can look at it again, I suppose.
Yeah.
Man, I'll shovel your sidewalk for $900.
We could get some enterprising young
Yeah.
men.
Well,
It was 2 years ago that we had that ice storm that
Yeah.
really
Mhm,
kept people from getting out and doing stuff,
Mhm.
getting out of their house or even getting to a store.
but then I think
If
I was
if it wasn't cleaned up.
It probably prevented the code enforcement guy from getting out and finding.
That's right.
I think I was the
It was
one
more
house in
ice storm than snow.
our neighborhood that actually had clear areas, but I think kind of looking through at least all of 816, most of these do seem like they're all a little high for what they are, because the trees part, it isn't the removal of trees, it's having the trees hang too low over a sidewalk. And kind of some of those just maintenance issues. But correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but with a lot of these, in addition to the leeway, and I think there is, if they don't follow through with this, there's repeat fines because it's every day potentially.
Yeah.
And so it's not like if we put it at $500 that's, you know, they could still be fined $10,000 if they don't take care of it right away. And I think with a lot of these, they seem $500 seems more appropriate, because while I think that Kelly and his team are doing a fantastic job being lenient today, you know, I fear Kelly winning the lottery, Patrick taking over and ruling with the iron fist, you know. And maybe things aren't that way, and this code isn't about today and Kelly, it's about, you know, kind of moving forward. And I would like to see, I don't know, fines that kind of seem more appropriate. So at least for 816, I think your suggestion, Chair, of halving it makes a lot of sense for those.
Unless the process of doing that is overly onerous just to change that one thing. If not,
To change 816, you'd have to adopt a violation section into 816 and then modify 828 to remove that. Alternatively, you could just change 828 that all of the violations in 804 through 824 are just a class B civil infraction.
make it so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I personally don't think it's a big deal one way or the other. Like, I think a 500 is a pretty big incentive also to,
It's enough of an incentive.
especially like Darren said, you know, it could be 1,000 tomorrow.
yep. And I think $500 is still a big enough, like if somebody just will not listen after, like one of these is really bad. The thing I think that would be the most prevalent is something like scattering rubbish. We do get property or sometimes that will not clean their property until they get fined. So that's the most likely one, to be honest. But I still think $500 is enough incentive. And if
Yeah.
they don't do it, the next day could be $500 again if we. so
right,
choose
if
to
they're
do that.
really,
Yeah, it'll quickly escalate.
I
I
have
would
hope
be
for
okay with
everything
that.
after seeing that house adjacent to the toll gate parking lot get cleaned up. I thought, hallelujah, if
Yeah.
that can get cleaned up,
And we had
Anything
two,
can.
we had two that were worse than that, unfortunately.
I've been yelling encouragement to the workers on that for the last few months. Good job.
I mean,
Keep it up.
if you guys want to change it to a class B, I would just make a
Change it to Class
note that
B.
you're recommending a class B.
That's an easier way of
Make a
taking
note.
care of it.
yeah,
Make a note.
I think
We are
so.
effect.
So a class B for chapter 828 that deals with 804 through 824.
Yeah, I don't see anything in there looking through it that would be
I
like,
don't
oh,
either.
no, that needs to be 1,000.
No.
Right.
Do you concur?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, some of these are kind of high. Just depends what it is.
On that snow and ice, I think the bigger issue is, I'd venture to say 90% of the people living in Sandy don't even realize that they're responsible for it.
Yeah.
So
Sidewalks in
there's-
front of their
yeah,
house.
so there's an education step to it. That's the first thing.
And businesses got an incentive to
Mhm.
clean it up. so.
Right, by the homeowner.
Cleaning the ice and snow off the sidewalk in front of my house is a hazard. The sidewalk in front of my house is an 18% grade
Yeah.
and I am brittle.
You probably have a longer, like on a house like yours, though, with a larger lot, you probably have a longer walkway to clear than the majority
I
of
do
homeowners,
have-
probably.
I do have a fairly decent walkway. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we're in a forever global warming. No snow.
That way you don't get snow yet to shovel again.
I have video of my husband doing it in shorts with a shovel when the snow was like that.
So is there other ones that you have similar concerns to, such as chapter 828? Either not being high enough or being too high?
As long as we're changing things, could we change the word icebox to refrigerator?
Get with the times. It's a refrigerator.
Yeah, So in a future process, yes. As part of this process, my answer would probably be no. And the reason why is because we're only changing the
Fine.
violation sections within all these chapters. I think if I don't disagree with you, Commissioner, but I think 816 needs a total, that whole chapter needs a total rework as it is. But I think that would be a separate
It'd
process.
be a refrigerator slash freezer.
Yeah.
To the chest freezer. Dangerous.
As you can see, if you go into that chapter, a lot of it was last updated in 1973. One of the sections was updated in 87. But yeah, it's really has not been looked at in a long time. So I think a future project would be changing the entirety of chapter 816. And at that time, I would be more than glad to change Icebox.
And it'll probably be done by AI.
By then.
Yeah, because even now you'd have to include Yetis and, things that are big enough that you could put a child in, close the lid.
Or a child could crawl into.
Mhm.
I'm assuming no people are putting children into those.
Oh, I mean, kids.
Kids, yeah.
Kids putting other kids.
Is there a reason sidewalk maintenance didn't have a 12.1? Have a fine associated
Which one's that? Sorry, 12.1?
12.1?
Yeah, it
Or did we miss one of them?
appears empty.
Is that where there's cracks in the sidewalk and you gotta
Okay.
repair them or
It
tree
just says-
roots or?
Post-
Must be kept in a good state of repair. It does not say what a good state of repair is.
I'm sorry, where are you looking at?
Well, on the chart,
12.1, item 41 of the packet.
Here, it's not. Nothing there.
Oh,
Sidewalk maintenance.
Sorry.
Other cities have,
oh, I see what you're saying.
but
I
here,
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Chris put that together. I'm not sure. Would that even be, we don't even have a 12.1 though.
Yeah, or 12.10.
Yeah, we have 12.10. Oh, so you just got the 1 and the 0 backwards, I think.
you got 12.8 160, is it sidewalk, curb and driveway construction.
so that's
possibly.
the sidewalk construction, that column is there.
Violation of any provision shall be a violation of class B. That's section 1.
Oh, that's because we don't fine. We
Require repair.
repair it and then put a lien on the property.
Oh,
That's why.
Even better.
Because we have had to do that last couple of years because there's a few that were so bad and the people were unresponsive and so they now have liens on their property.
Usually it ends up we do that or they form an LID and the whole.
Correct, that's
neighborhood
another
does
way to do it, yep. And the city has done that in the past.
a
I know we
lot
haven't used
in
that
the
as much
past. We
recently.
did that a lot, like on Sandy Heights and some other neighborhoods in the past.
The code enforcement officer did run a project a year or two ago that he did like, I think 10 or 12 properties. Everybody except 2 properties, I think, were on board because we actually got a better rate by doing so many than they could get
Yeah.
quoted. So we did them all and then they just made payments to us. I think there's 2 properties that never paid
And they
and
got leaned on
they just
there
have liens. And not even for that much, for like 1,500 or something. So when
because they
the,
got it for cheaper because it was a group.
exactly.
Yeah.
So when the house someday sells, that will be paid at that time. Yeah. That's why doesn't have a fine amount.
gotcha. Okay.
I know that was the past thing for fixing sidewalks was forming LIDs. And
Right.
creating those districts.
Yeah, and he's done a couple of them since he's been the code enforcement officer in the last 2.5 years, and I think everybody's paid except 2 properties. So it's been pretty successful how he's done it.
Mhm.
That and the council has gotten grants to do like the sidewalk to schools. things and all
Yes,
that.
yep, and we will be
Fixing stuff.
applying for one of those in the future. There used to be, Chair Malone will remember this. There used to be a CDBG grant.
Too
However,
big.
too big and too affluent. So the
Yeah.
majority of Sandy doesn't apply for that
It's
anymore.
based on your average income and
Yep.
then size of your city. Like we priced out of those at different levels. At 5,000 citizens, all of a sudden we weren't eligible for certain
Exactly.
grants. And
So we did used to get those grants. Even when I worked here, we got a couple back in like 2013, 14.
we're just too big now.
Yep. I think there's like a tiny little section of town that could even benefit from it now, but they all have sidewalks. So
That's back when houses were worth 60 or $70,000 here and not 460 or 70.
you could do a sidewalk panel for $150 or whatever.
Oops.
That's all I got.
Yep, that's all I have.
Okay. Do you have anything else for the good of the commission?
I do not. No, I just wanted your input on this and to know that, to let you guys know that we are going through this process. And I think it's probably good for the commission to kind of know where all the fine amounts are in the code anyways. So I think it was a good process to go through it and explain it to you guys.
Perfect.
And then I will be setting dates for a May meeting
And you'll
as
let
we
us
talk.
know.
Yep.
Now, normally when we meet, if we start meeting once the moratorium's over, whatever, we meet every third Monday?
Four.
Fourth
Fourth
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
The 23rd, that was the fourth Monday because of the way,
And then traditionally on, like Memorial Day weekends, or Memorial Day is a prime example, is we just go to the Tuesday typically.
the day after.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
just
like
like
that.
council does when
Just
their
like council,
things
yep.
falls on Monday. Okay, well, I'll be prepared for that and I can just say we're adjourned.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned
can.
at 7:47. Heading into the sky.
Thanks, everybody.